open your eyes and come back into the room. Today we're joined by Ken Gorman, who will share his insights with us, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments. Over to you, Ken.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Firstly, I apologies for being late. I was had it in the wrong time in my diary. It's a simple administrative thing. So sorry about that. Um, as I didn't get to do a reading in the beginning, I picked out what I thought was a really good reading. Do you mind if I do that?
Please do.
Okay, great. Um, uh, I'm going to pick a section here, and it's from one of the lessons, and I thought it was interesting. It says, uh, two of the periods of practice with the idea for today are needed, one in the morning and one at night. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Then close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You will escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer. As you survey your inner world, merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular. Try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly without any special investment on your part. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself as often as you can, but with no sense of hurry. I thought that was amazing. That is precisely the instruction for shamatha in Buddhism, about allowing thoughts to rise and go, and creating this. The lesson is lesson 31. I'm not a victim of the world I see, and I think what it's getting at is the um, we are not the thoughts that we're thinking. So anyway, I thought I would share that. So good. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Any comments or questions?
Lottie, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you. And I'm pleased to see you, Ken. Yes, we were meditating on the idea of waiting, and waiting for or waiting on. And the waiting on really took me to a deep place of gratitude. What came in time was Helen's prayer, I'm here only to serve. And being a waiter is to serve. And the gratitude of the opportunity to serve in a gentle way like that was very powerful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and subtle point. I've obviously, if you know me before, I talked about meditation a lot, and lived in a Buddhist community and learned that kind of meditation. And I've always been a big advocate. The course has many different kinds of meditations, but it's all about there's a certain surrendering in meditation, because we have to acknowledge something greater than ourselves is now going to be in charge and not the ego. But it's interesting. What I found when I was doing Buddhist meditation is it can very subtly become egocentric, because you think I am meditating. Wow, what a good meditator I am, or the opposite. What a terrible meditator I am. All those judgments and things, because I'm doing it. I'm now sitting. I'm meditating, and I'm getting this result. You see what I'm saying? And I lately I do a Sufi meditation. And these are just techniques that augment the Course in Miracles. It's nothing. It's not a different in my mind. It's all part of the same thing. It's a way of being quiet and techniques for being quiet. Anyway, it's called Murakaba, and it's actually the translates as waiting on God. And so the idea is that you're sitting, and rather than having the idea that you're meditating, you're having the idea that you're just creating space and allowing God to come to you. And it it's a lot of more advanced spiritual practice, if you want to call it that. I hate to use that, but is things become more and more subtle. They teach us in Buddhism, the ego becomes more and more subtle, and so you're working with it in the subtlety. And this one subtlety has really helped me, because there's a humility in that. I can't even do anything. I have to sit. But what I can do, one thing, I have to sit and wait on God. And of course, that ties into, in the Manual for Teachers, how did his teacher of God spend his day? And the first instruction is to sit upright and wait on God. And I think so many of the lessons are about getting us to sit and allow Holy Spirit. And even Christ's vision itself is allow Holy Spirit to show us another vision. And so this idea that we're doing anything is almost very subtly being eliminated, other than making that space. And so we're waiting on God in meditation. It really helped me anyway. I mean, it's different people have different things that work for them. And I got out of the idea that I'm meditating into the idea that I am simply sitting, waiting, and relying on the Holy Spirit to do whatever he's going to do. But I can do that. At least I can do that. I can do my practice, but it's up to him. I don't know if that's helpful, but I got your subtle thing there, was triggered me on something that's important to me. Anybody else got any comments or questions?
Okay, Annie, and then Dennis.
Is it me?
No,
Yep.
Annie, and then Dennis.
Yep.
Thank you,
Ken,
everyone. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jim, too, for the idea of the waiting. And for me, that triggered that lovely memory of I rest in God, which is, I don't know which lesson it is, but I definitely went that place today, and it was lovely. And Ken is essentially saying the same thing, isn't he? In a sense, it is all the paths are the same. We just use different methods, and I think we each have our own way, don't we? We're guided we have an individual curriculum, but the path is essentially, the summit is the same. And I really enjoyed today. I really enjoyed starting with total quiet like that. It was really, really profound and helpful. So thank you, Jim, for suggesting it. And thank you, Ken, for reading that lovely piece to cap it. So many blessings on everybody, and thank you. I'm out.
Yeah. Excuse me. That's such a good point. And it I rest in God. The minute you said that also ties into the lesson. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Sorry, everybody froze. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And also there's a cross reference to Buddhism. The one who is awake sees Buddha everywhere. And Buddha being the Christ in our language. And it's this idea that everything is God, and we rest in God, and God is everywhere because he's in my mind. And it's in all of our techniques are simply ways of working to get us back to that realization of what we already are. So I think that's really important, and it really helped me when I know the course has a lesson and a journey and all that, but in the end, you come back to really realizing what you always were. It's more like Michelangelo's statue, where who was it, the sculptor that said, I see how do you build such beautiful statues out of the stone? And he says, oh, the statue was already in the stone, and it just needed to chip away. That's the course, the introduction, where it says this is not a course in teaching about love. It's removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, that all these blocks are being removed to the awareness of what we all are. And as you very rightly say, it's very individual how that happens, but it's up to Holy Spirit in my mind.
Dennis, would you like to share?
Ken, you reminded me of your talk on Saturday. I'm responsible for my thoughts. Could you repeat the story about the smoker? Chap sharing a room with a smoker? Because it went quite deep in me. Thank you.
Dan, I assume that's you or somebody. I didn't. That's not one of mine, I don't think.
I don't know who. It's not me. It's not you. Sorry, Dennis.
I think I remember. Let me just take this. I think it had something to do with two people sharing a room, and one of them was a smoker. So the other one went to the chief person and said, please get me away from, I need to change my room from that disgusting person. And the person said, and the top guy said, I will change your room, but only so to remove the other, so the other person doesn't have to deal with your toxic thoughts. So that was what I got from that.
Would like to share? Norman.
Yes, it's strange because I first thought was a wee snippet from a poem or something. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, things did go a wee bit wrong. When the road you're traveling seems all uphill, rest for a while and be still and don't quit. And that I thought was strange. We thought like that. Make use of this error, as it were. So I had quite a pleasant thoughts during it. You know, things will go wrong, but just keep on going. And then another thought was rest in the peace. And that was reassuring as well, because I read somewhere in the course that you can only rest in peace if you're awake. And it's nice to know that we're waking up, you know, to God's presence and His love. And that was nice as well. So, although it was things might have appeared to have gone wrong, they didn't. Nothing happens by chance. It turned out to be lovely. So thank you very much.
Something you said, I think, is super important. We will perceive at least that there are challenges, and like we're going uphill and it's all going wrong. It's just part of being human. We could give you the course reason why it's not real and all that, but I stopped doing that a long time ago. We will have experiences. I'm certainly not at the level where that stopped. And we're in bodies, we're still living out that whatever it is. And I had and again, going cross-referencing back to Buddhism, a really, really good teacher, advanced teacher, but one of his main teachings stuck with me. And in the Buddhist term is gate gate parama gate gate gate. And you got to say it like gate gate. And what it means is going, 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 keep going, 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 keep going. And it's this need in the spiritual journey to keep at it. And I've had a lot of teachers say that is to just, that's what gets you there. And then you say, what does that mean? Well, the course tells us what to do. It's not hard to be willing to do our course lessons every day or whatever practice we're given. I have this idea that people are given practices by the Holy Spirit that work for them, but you have to do them and just keep going. And if we keep going and do our little part, as the course says, the Holy Spirit will do the big part, which we just keep out our practices, our morning prayers, our daily lesson, attending sessions like this, whatever it is we're guided to do. We just gate paramagate, or it's also translates as gate, another gate. And something happens with that. What the opposite to that is the ego gets a hold of our spiritual practice and says, you're failing, it's not working, give up. Don't practice, don't do your course lessons, don't pray, don't do your meditations, it's useless anyway, you're useless. You can hear all that. And that's just a lie, because the course promises if we make our little willingness, the Holy Spirit comes in with a whole lot of support, and that is the one actually doing it. That's referenced over and over again in the course. But we have to do our little bit, and just keep going no matter what's going on, and trust that He's got this and there's a whole plan for it. There is a flow. I'm as I've seen in my life, and I see it in business even, there's a flow if you tap into it. There's an absolute flow that you can be connected with. It doesn't mean it's easy from a body perspective, but there is a flow, and you know, and Holy Spirit's got this. That's the way it feels to me anyway.
Thank you very much.
When we opened up and Ken wasn't here to lead us, I got really concerned. I thought, oh no, what are we going to do now? And then one of the things that came to me early this morning, I start the day by deciding what kind of a day do I want. And I wanted a day of peace and love and happiness. And then I write down the keys to give me that. And one of the keys was accept everything without resistance. So I thought, yeah, so I just accepted it without resistance. And then we just went into meditation, and that was beautiful. And then Ken joined us and took us from there. So all things work out for good.
Thanks, Dan. And for me, I love coming to these sessions. I love doing things like this. I wasn't doing anything else. I just had it in my diary, and I'm thinking what happened. And then you do kind of run a story of, I wonder if that was meant to be a lesson for everybody. It's definitely a lesson for me to pay attention more, because it's simply an admin error. And that's something I need to work on. And this is maybe, but yeah, it's weird how things work. But if we show up, the Holy Spirit does take care of things. And I have this idea, you know, we won't be in bodies forever, some of us only a few more decades, or or whatever. And so it inspires me to practice this muraqabah, this releasing, this trusting, and showing up, because this is kind of the energy that's going to carry me past this body in a way, because I am going to be reliant on the Holy Spirit to take me for whatever comes next. I certainly can't control it from this vantage point anyway. So this is really good training for that. Now that's a story I sort of made up, but it inspires me to practice. And the important things that I practice, do my practices every day. That's what makes the difference. I've heard that over and over again from so many teachers. It's not quality of practice, it's consistency. Just keep at it, and the Holy Spirit's plan can unfold. It stops when we stop, basically. So anyway, anybody else? Dan, any other topic you'd want me to comment on that's inspiring you?
Yeah, how about waiting?
Sorry?
Waiting. We started this with waiting, which came from Jim.
Yeah, and I think, and again, we're back to muraqabah, waiting on God. I mean, it's in the label. And I think a lot of the spiritual journey is a journey of humility. And humility can be a concept, but humility is also a visceral experience. And humility is related to the word humiliation. And it's the ego that gets humiliated. And it's humiliating for the ego, for you to have to sit. After all that we've read, after having a book of 500,000 words with the Course in Miracles and everything else we've all done, the practice is to sit and wait on, our higher power to do the work. I think that's humiliating for the ego, and it doesn't like it, and it wants to get back in there and do something. And then the next thing the ego does is want to judge you for failing at doing it right, most of the time, and that's all just rubbish. We have to sit. And this waiting there's an enormous humility in that, an enormous trusting. And I think that's a lot of what meditation is, and it works. And we're sort of waiting, trusting that whatever is going to, when you're waiting on your food at a restaurant, well, we're sitting waiting, and it appears you're just waiting, but behind all of you in the kitchen, there's a flurry of activity of them putting all these ingredients together and cooking your food or what, and eventually the food comes at exactly the right time. So you might have the perception while you're waiting, nothing's happening, when in fact there's a whole lot of stuff going on back in that kitchen to bring you, a 4-course meal, right? So I think that's the idea, that we can trust all that. And again, for me, I used to want to reach out and still have to control how am I going to lead my life. And then I got inspiration on, you better learn to do this, because when you don't have this body, it's this trusting of being in this flow is what will sort of carry you. And so this is you're training yourself to be present with yourself as an infinite being, and how that works versus the ego way. And that gave me some inspiration as well. So when we're caught up in all of our ego things in our lives and these bodies and stuff, that's important. We have to do that. You can't check out of this journey. It doesn't work, because there's too many other people affected. But when we're doing our practices, we can learn to trust that, and we can wait. But last point on this, it's really important from every teacher I've had, that when you are doing a meditation, and I did this the whole time I lived in a Buddhist community, because I was a big time Course in Miracles student at that time. I never did a meditation without giving it over to the Holy Spirit. Intention is everything. So when you're waiting, you have to set the intention in some form that this is for, God or the Holy Spirit or whatever. That matters. We have the power of decision, but we have to decide. So it's not, you don't have to do it multiple times, in my understanding, and teach the stuff I've been trained by other people, but just once is enough. But you have to say, I'm sitting here waiting, but specifically as my time for God. This is my time for God. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not just waiting just to wait. So anyway.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you, Ken, and thank you all for being here and sharing this time together.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Love you all.
Great.
Love you so much.
Thank you.